Deal of a lifetime. Here to discuss is Mark Singer, the staff writer for The New Yorker and the author of Trump and Me. And then CNN contributor David Fahrenthold is a reporter for The Washington Post as well. And Scott Jennings, a former special assistant to President George W. Bush. So good to have all of you. And Mark, the president says that he is the king of the deal makers. You've covered him for 20 years. You just wrote a book about him. Is he the deal maker that he says he is?
Well, there's no evidence that he's making any deals at the moment in Washington because what legislation has he passed and what initiatives has he taken? He's operating more like a CEO with a very distant relationship to the operations of the business, and it's hard for me to recognize that deal-making acumen in his performance as president.
Do you think that because of all of the signing of the executive orders and the fanfare around that people actually think that he's creating some sort of legislation?
Yeah, I assume they do.
Legislative achievements?
Yeah, the same people who think that your health care is going to be great and everybody's going to be covered and nobody's going to get kicked off Medicaid. Just because he says it doesn't actually make it real. So the ceremony surrounding the executive orders is a show. It's not about anything of substance particularly.
David, it seems like senators are telling the president to keep his distance from negotiating on the health care bill, in part because he doesn't know enough about the details. Can he cut a deal in the Senate without understanding policy?
No. I think that's one of the things that sets this deal-making apart, or this attempted deal-making apart, from what he did as a real estate broker, a real estate developer. In the world of real estate, he knew what the moving pieces were. He knew, you know, I'll give you this much for a square foot. I'll give you this much off the loan. He understood how to make a deal because he understood what he was trading. Everything we've seen, our reporters of the Washington Post, we've heard from senators, is when he talks about health care, he doesn't know what the moving pieces are. He doesn't know how to make the deal because he doesn't know what he's dealing with. Even when he was sort of twisting arms on the House bill, he would say to people not, okay, I'm going to give you this on community support payments, or I'm going to take away this on essential health benefits. He was just saying, it's going to be great, sign on, it's going to be awesome. And then when the bill passed, he called it mean. So I think without knowing what the moving pieces are, it's really hard for him to serve that deal-making role. He just kind of gets in and mucks it up.
Scott, fair criticism?
Well, I think what I'm hearing out of Senator Mitch McConnell's orbit today and tonight is that the president's actually engaged in talking to senators about getting to an agreement on health care. He's engaged with individuals. The staff at the White House is also engaged in putting the legislation together now that can finally get enough votes to pass the Senate. So I think we can sit here and wonder about the president's deal-making skills, but what's really happening, based on what I've heard today, is that he's fully engaged and he's being helpful in Mitch McConnell's world in getting the 50+1 necessary to pass this bill in the United States Senate. I don't know that they would be able to get there if the president weren't engaged in it. So if they ultimately get across the line, I think you'll find out in the TikTok afterwards that the president was helpful in pulling at least a few votes in.
Peter King says he's not sure that it will be able to pass the Senate or able to pass the Congress, Scott. And he's saying, well, maybe it's not a complete repeal and replace. He would like it to be, but maybe it's not, and maybe you have to just negotiate a tweaking of Obamacare. Is that acceptable, you think?
Well, I mean, it's possible that that's the road this could go down. I mean, right now we don't have a bill that's got enough support to pass that's a full repeal and replace. I do think tonight it appears there's some movement on the opioid funding front that's going to allay the concerns of the senators from Ohio and West Virginia. So at least that piece appears to be getting taken care of in some movement tonight. But there's still more to do. I also read tonight that the health savings account issue may be getting resolved. That's something that Rand Paul has raised. So you can see right now in the machinations that are going on, individual senators are getting their issues taken care of that they've raised throughout the process. Ultimately, though, we're still not there. I do think that Mitch McConnell and his leadership team are working feverishly to get legislation that can be scored by the CBO, which will take a couple of weeks, and then voted on before the August recess. Ultimately, if we get it done before the August recess, the delay will be a blip, but we're not there yet, and if we don't get there, the one thing that remains, Don, is that health insurance premiums are still going up, and the health insurance market is still struggling out there. Nearly half of all the counties in the United States have one or no carriers on the exchanges. So those are issues that have to be dealt with, whether this particular bill passes or not.
And there's a lot to. I'm sure there's a Democratic person who could talk about that here, but there's not one, right? Who could tell you that what they would say is that it's because Republicans and the president are not supporting the ACA and are talking it down, that people are afraid of it, and therefore, and they would also tell you that the CBO is saying that Obamacare is not collapsing, that is a false argument.
Well, they would say that, but the fact is that there has been threats leveled about not supporting the ACA, but they've not actually taken that step. Number two, on the premiums, we've seen double-digit premium hikes every single year since the exchanges came online. Now, that predates Donald Trump being the president and this current Congress taking office. And number three,
isn't there more fodder? Isn't that fodder for the Democrats' argument then that it should be fixed rather than replaced?
Well, I think it's fodder for the Republican argument that you can't fix something that's so irreparably broken. I mean, we're talking about 100+% premium increases for people who are buying insurance on the private market. The other issue here, almost half of all the counties in the United States pretty soon will have one or no insurance carriers left in the exchange market. That is not a sustainable model for the future, and so even Democrats would have to agree that we can't really have a private insurance exchange market out there if nobody wants to cover the people who live in half the counties in the United States. So these are facts. They exist. They've been reported in major news outlets, and they have to be dealt with sooner rather than later. It's not getting better.
We're hogging the time for the rest of the folks here, and I wish I had a Democrat on here who could counter you. Listen, David, I want to move on and talk about, you were the first to report this story on the president has a fake Time magazine cover hanging in 5 of his clubs with headlines that say, The Apprentice is a television smash. He has been on he has been on that cover 14 times, legitimately. So why hang a phony cover up there?
That's the great question. This cover was hung up, almost all the covers you just showed were from his political career, so they're after he started running for president in 2015. This cover showed up in his clubs between 2009 and 2014, a period when he'd only ever had one. That was back in the 80s. So I don't know why they did it. I don't know who did it. I don't know if Donald Trump knew this was a fake, or if he too was fooled. He certainly displayed it at his clubs alongside real, legitimate, true covers of other magazines. So I don't exactly know the origins of it because the Trump organization won't talk to me about it. But here's what's interesting about this. This is a person who has had a lot of success in his life, but has always, we've seen in a pattern of his charitable giving, his boasting about the size of his inaugural crowd. President Trump often wants to take the truth as a starting point and then add on to that, even when the truth for him is good. In this case, his golf clubs are great. They're incredibly successful. They're lavish. They're beautiful. Being at them, you know, okay, the guy who owns this club is a successful person. But somewhere along the line, they felt the need to add on to that, to add a trophy on top of that that was phony, that wasn't earned.
Mark, you know, having a fake cover, I mean, it's a silly thing. The president has a history, though, of exaggerating his accomplishments. What does this say about him, his personality, or his public persona?
Well, it's a very useful metaphor, and it speaks to obviously a deep sense of inadequacy that he has, which informs, I think, every statement that comes out of his mouth. Virtually.
Do you say, is it a facade?
It's a persona. It's my understanding of Donald Trump over the years has been that you're not dealing with a normal person who has an interior life and the sort of emotions that you and I tend to experience. He prefers to exist. So The Apprentice is what got him elected president more than anything. And there he's an actor playing a businessman on TV. He's not negotiating real deals there. He did do real deals in the real estate business early on. Donald Trump loves leverage. That's one of his favorite things. And you need leverage. You need to have credit in the real estate business, but he's trying to leverage things that really aren't leverageable now, and it means certainly you can't apply those standards to politics.
I want to play this. This is what he said about Time magazine back in January.
Time magazine, and I have been on their cover like 14 or 15 times. I think we have the all-time record in the history of Time magazine. Like if Tom Brady's on the cover, it's one time because he won the Super Bowl or something, right? I've been on for 15 times this year.
Scott, by the way, this was at the CIA Memorial Wall. The president is wrong, by the way. Richard Nixon has the all-time record. He was on 55 Time covers. But 14 covers is a lot. Why does he need to stretch the truth here?
You know, I play a lot of golf, and I've been in a lot of golf clubhouses, and I've never been in one when somebody in there wasn't engaged in talking about a whopper that they were telling or an exaggeration. In fact, if I had a nickel for every whopper I'd heard in a golf clubhouse, I'd be a rich man. You wouldn't be able to find me tonight.
Scott.
And so
This is
I don't know,
we're not,
I don't
this is
know
not
why he's hanging
fishtails.
these
This is the
covers up.
president. This is the president. We're not doing fishtails.
Well, he wasn't the president when he hung the covers up, and I will be perfectly honest with you guys. I think we've got Assad's about to gas his own people again. The North Koreans are trying to aim nuclear weapons at us, and nobody can afford their health insurance. And we're sitting here talking about what's framed and hung up inside of a golf club?
You should have listened to the other parts of the show. There's enough. There's a 24-hour news network. We can talk about all of it. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. There's plenty to go around.
I hear you, but I
what was your reaction? Scott, we're hogging the segment here. What was your reaction?
People are always making excuses for the president's inattention, his pure BS, frankly. He's a salesman. That's what we have here in the White House. We don't have a person who's even acting as a functioning chief executive. He's there. To say that he is engaged in the politics of the health care law, excuse me, that's a very recent development.
All right. We'll be right back.